the Gentlementor.
So yeah. But no, it wasn't. Well, it was, but it wasn't about skill or talent or superpowers or anything else. It was just about being there, being regular, and
Being regular.
consistent. I think that consistency. Yeah. I think there's.
All right, so I'm thinking. All right,
Good
so
job.
Here's a title. Here's a title for this week. Consistency can be mastered by anyone. Consistency doesn't take a lot of time to learn.
You got to learn to do clickbait titles. You
Okay,
never give away the answer in the title unless you can make it long enough that it doesn't show up in the YouTube title and they actually have to go to the video to see the full title.
And they have to go to see it. Okay. All right. Go.
How about this?
Okay.
The superpower everybody has.
Ooh.
See, something like that. You got to draw the listener and you got to make. Ooh,
that's good.
That is. You have a superpower. Watch this video to find out.
You do have a superpower, and everybody has the ability to be consistent somewhere in their lives.
Anybody can do it. You can be consistent to somebody.
That'll totally make a difference. It'll make a difference to your spouse. It'll make a difference to your kids. It'll make a difference to your friends.
It'll make a difference to your boss. Can we talk about that?
Okay. Let's talk about that.
Be consistent in your work.
Yeah.
Be consistent in the product you turn out, and don't pace yourself to come in last. Don't turn in crap just so nobody expects more of you.
Yeah.
Expect more of yourself.
Like I tell my son, sometimes just showing up makes you ahead of everyone else. And showing up on time makes you even ahead of those people.
Yes.
I think I talk to a lot of business owners and a lot of employers, and the one thing that they're looking for is someone who will show up when they're supposed to show up at the time they're supposed to show up.
Have them call me. If you had to give me a reference, you could say that with a completely clear conscience. This guy will freaking show up. In fact, you'll wish he'd stop.
You wish he hadn't showed up.
Oh, you just want somebody to show up? I got the guy for
you. A lot of times that's what they want. A lot of times that's the whole idea behind finding a good employee is this: will they show up? Will they be here when they say they're going to be here? Are they consistent enough for me to give them a paycheck? And sometimes it's not about the quality of work. That's what amazes me right now, is that this generation of young people that are coming up, they're just like, I got too much, I'm tired from the weekend. I'm just not I'm going to call in.
Do stuff.
I call it. Yeah. It's like, you know what? If you just come in and not do anything at work, I'd probably be okay with that as an employer. If I'm having as much trouble as some of these other business owners that I know. Now, granted, we do want to get productivity. We're doing our money's worth when we hire an employee. But I mean, we're approaching a workforce right now that's just hard to get them to be on time. And just being consistent, if you're a younger person out there, and I'm telling you, you can be ahead of the game if you show up and you show up on time.
Constant issue at the hospital.
Okay.
And that's not teenagers. That's people in their 20s.
It's just 30s. People in general. Yeah.
Well,
it's 20, 30. That's what I would say the younger generation.
I think the dynamic amounts to that thing that you have. And again, we can wrap this right back around to the maturity issue.
Let's do it. Why not?
Everything's
connected.
There's an internal mechanism that operates in some human beings. It's been in me that as soon as we have to do something, we no longer want to. Once something is expected or required of us, it then goes from being a benefit to a burden. And so we resist it. And for young people, especially. My niece was, from the time she got out of high school, it seemed like every 3 weeks she had a different job, because she would go to a job and she would like it. She'd get trained. And then a couple weeks in, somebody would make her mad and she'd quit and go off to the next job.
Yep.
And I was struggling trying to find a job, and she was just get a job, quit a job, get a job, quit a job.
Yeah.
And it's, this is too difficult. I'm not doing this. Oh, all my friends are partying. I want to go party too. I'm not doing this. I'm quitting. I'm calling in sick. I hear stories in the other room all the time about the ridiculous things. People have this job and they'll do it. And then, I'm not going to be able to be there. Oh, I thought I had Thursdays off. Just the most ridiculous excuses. And basically what it bounced to is just didn't want to show up.
Yeah.
Do you have something else to do? Do you have a family emergency? Were you sick?
Nah, just didn't.
Netflix.
Just didn't feel like it. Yeah, Netflix. It was the debut of The Mandalorian. I had to stay home. Okay. All right. So that's huge. Being consistent to your boss. What about being consistent to yourself?
Ooh,
There's one for you.
now we get into the stuff. I was thinking about that today. I was living a moment that made me recall some podcasts past that we've done.
Oh, okay.
I've been
Let's relive it.
well, shall we?
Let's do.
I've been not feeling overly inspired creatively, and
Okay.
part of my deal with the situation that I am is in order to justify that it's what it is that I insist that I be productive on some level.
Mhm.
Something
Mhm.
gets done.
Yeah.
And I haven't been doing anything and I haven't been feeling like doing anything. And when I do finally like buckle down, oh, I'm going to do this, then technology wanted to have a battle with me. And today I finally got around to doing something. And even though it wasn't like a great moment of inspiration, it was remaking a video that I lost. I still had the
Yeah.
component pieces, but I lost the finished video, so I had to rebuild it.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, it's that feeling of accomplishment I haven't had for so long. And it goes back to the thing that we've talked about on several episodes, which is inspiration can't be depended upon. So we must have discipline. Discipline trumps passion.
Mhm.
Passion's great, but when passion
Mhm.
and inspiration don't show up, how do you get through? Discipline. And so I think it's a similar mechanism. Being consistent to ourselves, setting
Yeah.
a standard for this is who I am, this is how I want to be. There was Jocko Willink is a guy that's I think he was a Navy SEAL. He does kind of inspirational stuff, and he did a great video.
Yeah.
And it's short video the other day, and it was like 3 things: who are you, who do you want to be, and what's it going to take to get there. Now
Yeah.
move, get up,
Yeah.
go. And that
Go.
was it. It was like bing, bang. Consistency to yourself. Yeah. What are the standards that you want to live by? What are the things that you want to be known for? Because like it or not, there are people around watching, and they may not actually have a little notepad where they're keeping track, but on some level, even if it's not a keep track like a balanced scale thing, there's an assessment of you that grows in their perception, and it's based on your consistency.
Yeah.
And that doesn't start with your consistency to them. This usually starts with how consistent you are in general.
Yeah.
And the foundation of that is your personal consistency. Do you, whether you're a fitness guy or a creative person or a writer or whatever you do you consistently work at that? Is that something that's enough of a priority that it's built into your daily, here's what I do?
Right. Right. And simple things too. And I think there was another Navy SEAL who talked about, I don't remember his name, but I think he talked about, if you can't do anything, get up and make your bed. When you get out of bed, make the bed. You've accomplished something. It's 6 a.m., whatever time you get up, you have done something and you have set a tone for the day to being consistent at accomplish something and making some progress. And going back to what you were saying about, being productive, productivity, progress is not necessarily productivity, but being productive. And anyway, I'm going off on something else, but I wanted to stick with just being the consistent thing.
Yeah,
I don't go off
don't you
product.
dare go off.
I'm not gonna pull a Doug and
tangent
pull you off the path. I want to be consistent here.
And
I want to make a list. I want to be consistent. Making your bed, just doing some stuff. I notice some things in you that I'm just like, man, this guy has got some consistency. You talk a lot about, your prayer time in the morning and your devotional time and just spending a lot of time, you talk about reading scripture, and you and Jackie were reading the scripture, praying about this and something like this. And I'm just like, you got a lot of consistency in there. And you know what? Back up a minute, and you're looking. I don't know what that look is you're giving me, but
I'm just listening.
Okay, all right. I don't know what that look is you're giving me, because when people tell me that about me, and I'm giving them that look, I'm like, you have no idea. There's no consistency in my life. And I'm like, there's enough that it makes a difference. When you talk about it, when you say something, when I notice it, there's enough consistency there that makes a difference in my life and makes me want to just move it up one more notch, because you've got some consistency there. And I'm like, I want to do that too. I want to be consistent in this area. I want to make my bed every morning. I want to spend some time in prayer every morning. I want to spend some time doing some exercise. I want to spend some time reading.
If only you didn't have that stupid job.
I know, man.
You
That's
could be
what
as
gets in the way.
fulfilled as I am.
You know what? I am consistent at going to work. I haven't been the past few days. I've been off for the past few days, but I'm doing some other things.
I have been consistently not going to work. So
you see, and I'm going to go back to this whole envy thing. That's you made this commitment. What was that? What are we on? 2 years now? We're talking about that. We've talked about this before.
Year and a half, but yeah,
year and a half. We're talking about this year and a half. And you have jumped into doing something here that you want to do. And I'm just like, man, good on you, because you are doing stuff that you want to do, and you are doing stuff that you are good at. And that's the thing too. When I look at something that I'm doing, I'm like, man, I don't know if I really even like what I do. I don't even know if I like that. There are parts of it that I like. There are some things that I really like, but there are some things that are just like, that's not me. I don't like that. I'm starting to move in that direction. I've drawn the starting lines. What I was talking about today in my post.
You're here on a podcast.
I've drawn a starting line, because the starting line, I heard John Acuff say that about, you can control the starting line. You can't control the finish line. You can't control, the midpoint, because you don't know where those are in your life, but you can control the starting line. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to start. I'm going to do it. I'm going to run the race. And you know what? If I fail out, if I crash and burn, if I blow up on the wall on the fence, fine. But when they wave that flag, I press the accelerator and I went across that starting line. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going across the starting line.
You do it.
So that's a whole nother podcast, probably. This is about consistency.
I'll just edit it into a second episode. Don't worry about it.
And then maybe people go, what's the second superpower that we have? Starting, execution.
Yes. See,
action, consistency and action.
Consistency and action, but also, man, I can't. You said make your bed. That's a Jordan Peterson. That's in his.
Is it Jordan Peterson?
He may not be who you were referencing, but that's one of the things he always tells people as a starting place. Start with making your bed. It's easy. Simple. Anybody can do it. You can accomplish it and feel like, pat yourself on the back. You did it. Now tomorrow, make your bed and pick up all your clothes.
Yeah.
Up the ante, just like you said. You take it up, kick it up a notch.
And if you're in the same thinking realm that Jim Gaffigan is, it's like, I'm not making my bed because I'm planning to get back into it for the same reason I don't tie my shoes when I take them off.
That's right.
Then start with something else, like making a healthy breakfast or something, or getting out and going for a walk.
There's 1,000 easy things that you can accomplish and master instantly.
Agreed.
And then just be consistent.
So if we're consistent with ourselves, Doug, does that make it easier for us to be consistent with other people, or does it work the opposite? Do we need to practice consistency? Do I need to practice consistency with you before I can be more consistent with myself, or do I need to practice more consistency with myself before I can be consistent with you?
I would say, as a general rule in life, always start with yourself.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything that's better to start with somebody else on.
You're right.
I think anything. No, I wasn't dumb.
I mean, you can't love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. You can't love your neighbor like yourself.
Well,
if you don't love yourself, then you can't.
Whitney Houston taught us that. Learning to love yourself. That's the greatest love of all. Dying for the world's sins? No, not dying for the world's sins.
Ladies and gentlemen, sex or chocolate?
Learning to love yourself.
I believe children are the future.
I believe. Oh, man, look at that. I segued myself right into what I wanted to say.
Non-demonstrative?
Not non-demonstrative. So we're talking, and we're having this conversation. It was funny because at one point in the conversation, you're looking at me, and usually when people look at me, they're thinking this. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm thinking. And I wasn't, honestly, at that point. But even before I listened to it, and then even more so after I listened to it, I thought, wait a minute, I am going to look at you funny. The next time we get together, the first thing I'm going to do is look at you funny.
Okay. That was funny.
Because you're going, oh, I look at you and I admire your, what was it we were talking about? The word, the magic word. Man, did you see how well I teased that? I teased the crap out of that.
Oh my gosh. I was even mad when I watched it and I knew what the word was. And I was telling people, I was like, can you believe he did that?
And if you watch the whole episode, that's like the very last thing we say before I cut it off. Consistency. Clunk. Which left me with like the 15 more minutes of like really good. We really stayed on it. And then we got to talking about, oh, I know what it was. We got sidetracked because you're like, I know what the title needs to be. And I'm like, no, that's not clickbaity enough.
Right, right. And I remember you said the superpower. Yeah.
Yeah. So consistency in you. Let me think of how to launch into this. The best thing to do is probably to say, here, let me wrap this around.
Again?
I want to be completely original and unique and never repeat myself. So let's wrap this around. We started in the warm up for the last one, and we were talking about the sign. Don't be, I can't remember. Be courageous enough to be disliked, or don't be afraid to be disliked.
Yeah.
And then I made, and you're like, oh, but be respected and trusted. And so I made the 2-sided sign, and I said, This is kind of the thing I always point to about you and I is like, that's you and that's me, and that's you and that's me. So this became, as I'm laying in bed, like I said, this is before I even listened to the last one, I'm thinking about, but that's not true. You are consistent. You're just consistent in completely different ways than I am. Maybe not even completely different ways, because I know parts of your life where you were really consistent, like where you really got into the exercise and all that, and you were like super buff guy there for a while. I mean, you were always kind of pudgy, but not seriously. You just had like a dude body, and then you got all and were like all rigid, and I'd go to hug you, and there was no soft parts on you. It was just like kind of grabbing a hold of a rock or a log or something.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that might be too intimate. But I was thinking about that. But the thing I really thought about, the thing that I know about you, and the thing that probably was most instructive to me is that emotionally, you are extremely consistent. And we would joke and make Spock jokes and stuff like that, because Andy's kind of got that thing too. And I think some people think of it maybe as being sort of emotionally unavailable, but I've never seen it that way. I don't even think of you as being stoic, because you clearly emote. I mean, I can tell by looking at you if you're like in a happy place or in a not too happy place. Right. But it's not obvious. As we said last time, we were kind of talking about the idea that there's half of the population that's very emotional and half the population that's very cognitive.
Right.
That's you and me and you. Because I've seen you really happy to the point where you are in tears. So I don't think of you as being frosty. I've seen you really mad, but at your maddest, you still aren't like, this is a bad example. This is an extreme example. But you don't boil over. You simmer.
Because I'm a stuffer.
Well, but I also think of like the one time when we were working in the restrooms at church, and you went by really fast, and I'm like, oh man, he's mad. And I'm like, what's wrong? And you turn around and you go, I'm fine. I just cut my finger. And you had sliced your finger open with a box knife. And even then, you were still level. As I've watched you raising your family, that is so critical to the relationship your family has with you, is your stability. And I use the word stability here, consistency, emotionally. My aunt taught me, because she's big into Caesar Milan and the dog stuff, hey, wake up. And she's...
Is this your aunt in
England? My England aunt. And she was talking to me about dogs and the way that dogs know who the leader is. She said a dog pack can actually have like 2 alphas. And they'll be like, there might be a dog who's really aggressive and overbearing, but he's not really the leader. The other dogs are just afraid of him. The dog that's really the leader, that the dogs follow, is whichever one is most stable, most consistent. The dog that won't go off and attack something.
Right.
So I don't think that it's fair to say you're consistent or I'm consistent. I think we're consistent, just like we have strengths and weaknesses in everything. We have strengths and weaknesses in consistency. I want to be, and like I said, this is no secret. It would be stupid for me to try to keep it a secret because I'm not very good at it. heart on my sleeve guy. I have struggled and struggled. Talked about it here. Talked about trying to control my emotions, control my urge to
Right.
boil.
Yeah.
And I don't just boil. I Vesuvius boil. It's short boiling, follow a stack blowing. And there's been periods in my life where it was worse and periods of my life where it was better. But watching you was what encouraged me to go, look, you can work on your emotional stability. There's always room for improvement. But
Yeah.
what can you make stable? What can you make consistent right now? And that for me is behavioral stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Get up, make the bed, clean the house, read the Bible, pray, go down the list. Discipline rather than inspiration, rather than passion. Because, and this is I'm working on this thing that's kind of been in my head. Our internal inconsistencies appear as instability to those around us.
Got it.
Maybe that's what I meant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Okay. So
and I think even the opposite is true. I think our instability on the inside comes across as inconsistencies as well. I guess it's all perspective.
I'm not sure I can split the hair between instability and inconsistency. They're kind of blur into the same thing, but it's kind of a different take on fake it till you make it, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's not really faking it. It's do what you do well and get the strength that comes with that, and then use that strength to work on the more difficult things. Back to the Jordan Peterson make your bed thing.
Yeah.
Do the thing you can succeed at first, and that will give you the security, the ability, the strength of character to try to take on more difficult things.
Right.
So I can be scheduling consistent. I can get up on time. I can do my thing and do my thing and do my thing. And while I'm doing all those things, I'm also working on that part of my consistency that I have more trouble with, my emotional not wanting to be the barking dog on the leash kind of a thing. So I just wanted to say that it was your example that helped me, whereas you were saying it was my example that made you feel like you needed to do better. And I was thinking, well, that can't be true because it was your example that made me feel like I had to do better.
No,
and
it's 100% true.
We're back here in the centrifuge of brotherly love, strengthening and encouraging one another, even, let me make this point, without really trying to.
That's true.
Your example encourages me to do better, to want to do better.
Likewise, that's what I was saying previously, was that your example encouraged me to do better as well. And ultimately, that's really what we want to do.
Absolutely.
Just be an encouragement. And actions, like we've heard the thing, actions speak louder than words, blah, 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 blah. Inactions, I think, speak louder than that. They speak the loudest of all.
Yeah. Right where I was heading to, there was a good meme that I stole from Riley and reposted about, this men supporting men thing isn't just about encouragement. It's also about accountability.
Mm-hmm.
But so much of it, forgive me for this, so much of it is found in the relationship. It is not that I need to sit and say encouraging things to you. It's that I need to be with you, and hopefully our, highest ideals of ourselves or the things that we are trying to be will speak to one another. We'll speak to each other encouragement just in the way we live our lives, just by being around each other. It takes on a reciprocal nature. It's not that I need to write you notes or stuff, or that there's anything wrong with it, but just that thing was so amazing to me when I had it like 24 hours just to kind of back away from it and go, this works without even working. It works without trying. I mean, the encouragement part, not the improvement part. That obviously takes work.
That takes effort. Well, I think it goes back to the old adage that the most important things are caught, not taught. So those are things that we catch. Being in a family, good or bad, we catch those either way. Just being around and hearing our parents talk, or hearing our friends collaborate, or people hearing us collaborate, people just listening us to this on this podcast and going, wow, these guys, I don't know what that is about them. They're idiots, or whatever the things that's true. They're caught. But so I want to back up for a minute because you were talking about all this. And so I was thinking consistency, which I have, people have told me throughout my lifetime that I've been a different word, which is similar, but consistently. So let me back up to consistency. Could consistency also be, for example, if you, every time you someone calls their mother-in-law, for example, and says something, tries to be nice, and mother-in-law always flies off the handle and gets mad and hangs up the phone every time. That's consistent, right?
It's
That's
That's consistent too.
That's consistent. So consistency could also be something that's not so great. So
Yeah.
someone else had mentioned to me several times, they had said, you have a very steadfastness about you. Would that be a better thing? You say, okay, steadfast, and that's
it's better. It's definitely got more of a positive spin to it.
Yeah, rather than just emotionally inert.
Yeah. Well, like you said, consistent could technically have a negative, whereas steadfast sounds like
it's more of a positive
character quality.
Yeah. So it's like, well, every time I call mom, she always hangs up the phone with me. Well, at least she's consistent.
Yeah. I think my dad was, of course, was just in the nursing home, and that's what he was telling me. It's like breakfast is really good, but lunch and dinner always stink. I'm like, well, at least it's consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah. Consistent could be a bad thing could be consistently bad. So.
All right. So steadfast is the magic superpower.
Steadfastness.
Steadfastiality. That sounds terrible.
No, and now it sounds like a bad thing.
Yeah, now
I didn't really have anything to add. I find that as I go and edit these things, and like given, like I said, a little extra time, I frequently come away going, "Oh, I should have said."
I do too. I do the same thing when I listen to them. Of course, they're already out there for the world, and I'm going.
We need to do like a Tuesday release, and then Thursday have, and one more thing.
There's a comedian that talks about his mom every time he calls his mom on the phone, and before he gets off the phone, she always says, "And one more thing," but it's never something important. It's never something that deserves a one more thing. It's always like, "Oh, and one more thing. I just bought a new rice cooker." Anyway, that's good. Oh, what's his name? Michael. Starts with a B. Birbiglia. Michael Birbiglia.
Mike Birbiglia.
Mike Birbiglia. Yes, it's great comedian.
Nice. Fantastic. Yes, Mike does nice, generally pretty family friendly stuff, but really funny.
Typically. Typically.
But anyway, I just wanted to make that point and kind of reciprocate the love and say that I love you and thank you for being the example, because I think of many times in my life where it was like I wasn't feeling too great on me, but I could kind of look at you and go like, okay, well, give me the kind of borrowed moral character strength and stuff. Now
there's one.
And words of appreciation like that.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful to be here.